A now colleague of mine from AllBearcats and Sports Illustrated, Russ Heltman, joins me today to talk the latest slew of commits of recruits here on Locked On Bearcats.
Are Locked On Bearcats, your daily podcast on the Cincinnati Bearcats, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you so much for making Locked On Bearcats your first listen every day. It's free and available everywhere you get your podcasts and on YouTube. You can subscribe there on the Locked On Bearcats YouTube channel. We're up to a 162 and counting, so you can be the next. Hit that subscribe button, follow us to get an alert every time a new episode drops as well. Like and share a comment on today's video as well. Alex Frank, your host each and every day, joined by a now colleague of mine from AllBearcats and Sports Illustrated. He's also a producer and host on WMKV 89.3. Russ Heltman. Russ, I feel like there's some news going on surrounding the Bearcats football program. What is it like now? 10 commits since Saturday? Just to break it all down for us.
Unbelievable stretch, Alex. 10 commits since Saturday, 10 in the past 5 days. We just, as we got on the air right now, as we were starting recording, I had to push it back about 15, 20 minutes because Kamari Burns out of Gahanna Lincoln, 3-star high-level defensive lineman, committing to the Bearcats as well. Now that makes up 7 of top 25 24/7 Sports best-ranked players in Ohio for the 2023 class committing to UC. And it's funny how things we say on this program, Alex, tend to start coming to fruition 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks later. I talked to you about getting that flag planted in Ohio, and getting that flag planted, obviously starting with Cincinnati. They've made up the hometown heroes. They've gone after all those guys, and they've done a great job building a wall around the tri-state area here. And now they're trying to build a wall around Ohio and go after those high-level 3-stars, those lower 4-stars, convince them that they are a better option than the only other Power 5 big states or in-state option in Ohio State to get on the field. And it looks like it's working. Anytime that you have an official visit weekend as big as they just had over the past 3 to 4 days, looking at Thursday through Sunday, and you get 10 commits coming off of that, I don't know how much of a bigger endorsement you can have for the program, Alex.
I think that's what's so amazing to me, Russ, is that you have a 4-day visit and then 10 recruits commit. So what do you think that says about the program? What do you think it says about Luke Fickell that these players, just after 1 weekend, like Russ, we haven't even started the second, official visit weekend this month. So what does it say about the program and maybe Luke Fickell?
To me, I think what it says about the program is that there's a commitment there from top to bottom through this coaching staff. And there's a commitment to see this Big 12 vision all the way through the end, to see this practice facility get built, to keep the pressure on the administration to get that done. There is pressure, and it's building diamonds, I think, in the recruiting circles. And whenever you have this kind of pressure to go after higher level talent, to raise the bar like they're already doing, our friend Chad Brendel at Bearcat Journal, upping the point total to a record high level on 24/7 Sports for their entire now 18 commit haul currently. It's higher than the record-breaking 2020 class dating back to 2002 when they started going through and really evaluating these recruiting classes one by one across the country. So when you think about being in June, the first week of June, and you've already secured enough commitments to set a record for the most valuable, highest rated class in the history of 24/7 Sports by your own program's metrics, then it's a definitive declaration that this program is not only reloading, not only keeping the momentum cooking from the undefeated regular season, from the AAC championship game, from a disappointing result, but I think expected process and kind of growing pains game that they went through in that quote-unquote blowout to Alabama, to the 9 draft picks in the NFL selection show a couple weeks ago. We now have a full culmination in what we hoped, if you're a Bearcats fan, and expected to see coming off of that NFL draft, Alex, were these players who might not necessarily be 5-star guys. They are yet to get a 5-star sign to this program in the history of the team, dating back to 2002. I think that's the next step coming. But the fact that they are convincing these 3 stars, high-level 3 stars, low-level 4 stars, that they are the best option to come mold your game and become an NFL caliber prospect, that is a huge, huge declaration and a huge endorsement in terms of all parties involved, from the players buying in to the coaches putting out there and driving home the points that need to be made in situations like these when you're talking about getting those commitments all the way through the finish line, the toughest thing to do in college football recruiting.
I think you're absolutely right, Russ. And there's just tremendous momentum right now for the Cincinnati Bearcats as they get set for a Big 12 move next year. Coming up, I'm going to ask you about their ability this past weekend, Russ, because I'm looking at where these recruits are from, and they're not. In fact, I don't think any of them are from. Well, we just got one from Ohio, but like a lot of them are scattered around the country. So that's another positive sign. But first, I need to tell our listeners here about betonline.net, your number one source for all your betting stats and sports info. You can find all of the latest sports developments, news, and odds, including this year's basketball championship matchup, the NHL hockey conference finals, Major League Baseball, and, of course, all of the latest fighting news from MMA and UFC to boxing. BetOnline is your continued source for all of your sporting wagering information, including live betting, esports, and more. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends in action. BetOnline, where the game starts. Russ Heltman of AllBearcats and Sports Illustrated joining me today here on Locked On Bearcats. Russ, the recruiting geography from this past weekend stood out to me. You've got players from Florida, New Jersey, Missouri, Pennsylvania. I mean, what does it say about Cincinnati? I mean, you talk about the wall they're building in Ohio, but what about around the country, and particularly, Russ, in Big 12, geography? Because when they joined the Big 12, that's only going to open the door for more areas that are pretty hotbeds for football, Texas, Colorado, Louisiana, for recruiting, right?
I think so, yeah. I haven't combed through and gotten a breakdown of all of the commits so far that happened this past weekend, just going through the geography. But 7 top 25 players now committed to this class out of the 18 players, 7 of which are top 25 Ohio recruits. And then when you think about going down and getting some of those, like I said, lower 3-star, kind of upper tier 3-star players that are in those hotbeds that have played that type of high level high school competition in the recruiting ranks down there in Florida, in Georgia, in different locations like that, and Tennessee, Powell, Tennessee, Aiden Green, I believe the receiver they just signed out of Powell. So the fact that they're able to, like I said, it just goes back to that first segment, the driving home consistent message from Luke Fickell saying that there will be a powerhouse, Power 5 football program, athletics program to compete with Ohio State for the first time in the history of either school. And so the fact that he can bring home that message and say, not only are we going to compete with Ohio State, but we're going to compete in a level of competition that is, I would say the Big 12 is not as good as the Big 10 perennially in the football ranks, but it's right there. Usually you will have a chance if you go undefeated in that league. He can tell these players to get on national stages, to compete for national championships, and mold your recruiting class and your recruiting vision in the way that you best see fit, as opposed to going to one of these higher power programs that have been entrenched, the blue blood level programs, say a Penn State or an Ohio State or a Michigan, where you don't necessarily have that same kind of upward trajectory vision, whereas at Ohio State, you're just trying to hold serve. You're trying to keep what Ryan Day has carried over from Urban Meyer completely rolling. And then Michigan kind of reaching the mountaintop last year and ready to keep that rolling as well. Penn State obviously still looking to get there. But you get my point. The fact that this is an up-and-coming program, I think, is really, really intriguing and enticing to these players that might not necessarily be top 50, top 75 overall recruits nationally, but they're guys that, like we've seen time and time again over the past 3-4 years, could be developed by this coaching staff and end up playing really great football in their college career and then go on to have an impact in the NFL as well.
It's just so amazing to me that, that this program is now starting to compete with Ohio State and Cincinnati. We talk about it being a hotbed for football talent at the high school level. Now, I mean, you look at what it's doing at the collegiate level. It's just truly unbelievable. After this word from 2 of our sponsors, Russ, I know it's kind of a shorter show today, rapid fire, but I want to ask you about some recent awards given out to the Bearcats football program by our good friends at Athlon Sports. 20 players getting named to preseason all-conference teams. We'll touch on that here in just a moment. Russ Heltman from AllBearcats and Sports Illustrated joining me today on Locked On Bearcats. So the Bearcats, Russ, they lost a lot of talent this offseason. Apparently, Athlon Sports forgot about that because you've got 20 players from this year's team that were named to preseason all-conference teams, most by far in the American Athletic Conference. 7 players named to the first team, 3 offense, 3 defense, 1 special teams. And Russ, all 3 are on the offensive line. How impressive is that?
It just goes to show where the strength of this team will be in the fall, and it leads even more credence to why we'd like to see the guy, both you and I have shared this opinion, see the guy with the strong legs and the strong rushing ability get that first chance on offense. Also got Josh Wiley in there as a second-team tight end. All 3, as you mentioned, first-team offensive players for the Bearcats are offensive linemen, Dylan O'Quinn, Lorenz Metz, and Jake Renfro. So when you think about the biggest strength of this team being in the trenches, it should give you even more reason to believe and feel confident that you're not just throwing Evan Prater to the wolves. You're not just throwing him out there against an SEC defensive line that is going to come and take his head off. You have a lot of great talent along that offensive line that can help buoy some of that. You have a great tight end that can take the pressure off him in the run blocking game and the pass catching game in Josh Wiley. And then you got multiple talented defenders and players at the defense at all 3 levels that can play like all AAC players. So to me, it just feels like it leads even more credence looking at these Athlon Sports preseason all AAC teams that you should give the guy who is your highest rated recruit in the history of 24/7 sports breakdowns to have a chance.
Wow. Went straight for it with Evan Prater. I'm kind of shocked, but I'm not at the same time, given how you and I both have similar feelings to who should be the starting quarterback. Now, there are some players on these teams, Russ, Arquan Bush, Corey Kiner, Tyler Scott. We haven't really seen these players have huge roles, and yet Athlon Sports is yep, we believe in them. We believe Ryan Montgomery is a first-team all-conference performer. We believe Corey Kiner, who was low on the depth chart at LSU, is a third-team all-conference player. What does it say about – what can you speak to that?
Well, I think it's a lot of projection in this, obviously. We're not going to know who's – that's the toughest part about covering college sports and college football and college basketball is just the access is a little bit more limited. And so we don't know who's going to be taking all the first-team running back reps right now or who's looked at by the coaching staff right now as the first-team running back. We can't get inside their heads, but we will start to get some serious indication of that once we get the Camp Higher Ground and the wonderful, steamy fall camp structure in we're only about a month and a half away from that. So the fact that they're projecting Corey Kiner here, I can see that. I mean, you can definitely see why they're projecting Corey Kiner, the 4-star LSU transfer who transferred because he wasn't getting starting snaps as a sophomore, to be able to not only take what is expected to be starting snaps and do well with them, but do very, very well given the talent level that he's bringing to the team. So I think it's a little bit of a projection, but also a little bit of faith as well in this Bearcats program, in this coaching staff that you and I have just got done talking about, setting up with the best recruiting class in the history of the program in 2023, and our coaching staff that, according to Chad Brindle, from 2011 to 2016, UC had 0 top 25 players in any of those classes from the state of Ohio, and now they are starting to build that wall with 6 committed in 2023 alone, and that was before Kamari Burns became the 7th.
How about that? It's unbelievable, again, the momentum that this university has with recruiting. Russ Heltman, I wish we had more time, but I know you got a lot going on with your family, and I just want to send my best wishes to you and everybody in your family and the AllBearcats family and all of those who cover the Cincinnati Bearcats. Russ Heltman, AllBearcats and Sports Illustrated producer and host, WMKV 89.3. Follow him on Twitter at Russ Heltman 11. Russ, thank you as always so much for your time, and best wishes to you and your family.
Love coming on. Alex, thank you for that message, and can't wait to do it again, brother.
Absolutely. I'm sure we'll have Russ on here as we approach the start of football season. Thank you, as always, for making Locked On Bearcats your first listen every day. I'm Alex Frank. You can follow me on Twitter at Frankie_Natty with 2 N's and an ATI. Don't forget to subscribe to the Locked On Bearcats YouTube channel. And until we talk to you tomorrow, I'm Alex Frank for the Locked On Bearcats podcast. Have a great rest of your day.